All right, we're here with Matilda today, and Matilda is a older working agility dog.
Yes.
And one of the common questions that were often posed to us is, when should my dog retire? What age should my dog retire?
Retired dogs don't like that, just like retired people. They don't want to sit on the couch.
No, you should retire your dog when your dog no longer enjoys his job or her job. So if you go to the agility course or the flyball course or the
dog
race
park,
and your dog just looks at you and lays down, doesn't want to move,
and it's time to go home.
then it's time to go home. One of the coolest things I've ever seen was when we went to the whippet races, the national whippet races. They have the Legends show. These dogs are geriatric. Some of them are 13, 14, 15 years old.
Mm-hmm.
And
still running.
Well, they bring them out and they're like, you're kind of wondering about them because you're wondering if they're still going to make it to the end of the course. And they only run 50 feet instead of 300. But boy, they put them in the starting box and they let them go, and that old bunny rabbit takes off, and those dogs still have it.
They're still excited about it. And that's part of it, is that the excitement of doing what they like to do also releases endorphins and kephalins, pain-mediating hormones from the brain. So don't let the age of the dog be your guide. Remember that movement and the excitement of being in a new place and seeing people and smelling things and getting out on the course where the adrenaline is running in small enough amounts is really good for their health. We find in active dogs who are working, keeping them on the course too long is actually an adverse,
right.
It has an adverse effect because it drains their adrenal system. So in the older dogs, get them out there, let them see it a little bit, but don't leave them there all day, because that'll really drain them.
Right, and one of the things that we've done to help some of our dogs that compete is that in these high drive dogs, just watching the event sometimes is enough to excite them and increase their temperature, heart, and respiration rates. And so if we can remove them from the venue, take them outside so they don't have to watch everybody else run
the course.
That will help.
Take them away from the course so
that will
they
help
can
them.
see something different.
The other thing is that we can do a lot of things that Matilda's owners have done. She's on a grain-free diet.
Yes.
Grain, we know, increases inflammation in the stomach.
And it changes the bacteria that are in the stomach so that they'll get more gas. And when they get more gas, they have more tendency to bloat and have other issues that are emergency medical issues. But if we can keep the bacteria in the stomach and in the large intestine normal by feeding a diet that is normal for the dog, a grain-free meat diet. Dogs are not meant to be vegetarians, Dr. O.
Right, and the grain increases inflammation. And one thing we need to remember is that the inflammation cascade is a big, huge, long thing that has
with
more
lots
words.
Of chemistry, and it has a certain temperature and all those kinds of things.
More words that you understand, Dr. Amy, but words that I can't even pronounce. But the thing that's important for me to remember, and the animal owners, is that the inflammation cascade is a cascade. And once we get it started, it really doesn't matter where it starts. It's a snowball.
It keeps going. And so we want to do as many things for these guys to help turn it off. And those happy endorphins or happy hormones help to turn it off.
And good food.
Yes.
And chiropractic care. Matilda ran yesterday. Matilda did fairly well. She missed a couple contacts, but let's just take a look at her chiropractically. And if we look at her legs,
Good girl.
We see that Matilda has a leg length issue. And if we turn her head,
She's also got chalk in her hair.
they get even when we go one way and worse when we go the other. Okay, so that tells us that she's got some upper neck issues or lower neck issues. One thing that we know,
So that's part of the reason that she misses contacts, is because
Right.
things up front aren't working quite right.
aren't working right. And Dr. Amy and I did a little research study. We looked at over 100 dogs.
We looked at over 100 dogs, some of them agility dogs, some of them herding dogs.
Some of them flyball dogs, some of them
And
performance dogs.
And so what those dogs did for a living came into question.
And we broke them into two groups. They either jumped for a living or they did
Did
not
not
jump for a living.
And those dogs that jumped for a living, over 80% of them had injuries in the lower cervicals, upper thoracics, that are consistent with what we would call in humans whiplash, or acceleration, deceleration injury.
Right. And not severe injuries. We're talking just restrictions in motion, mild injuries.
But one of the reasons we discovered it was that we were seeing retired agility dogs with these consistent kinds of injuries that showed up years after they had retired as hind end weaknesses, hind end dragging, leg pain that was very chronic and very difficult to deal with.
And very similar to what humans get that are chronic whiplash injuries.
When humans experience whiplash injuries, it doesn't go away. Without treatment, it will continue to show up on and on throughout their life.
And so the dogs that jumped had 80%. What about the dogs that didn't jump?
About 20% of them may had some incidents, but what we find is those dogs that jump, that get routine chiropractic care, didn't have it as bad or were easier to correct. And we anticipate that those dogs that are getting routine treatment of that whiplash injury through chiropractic care and acupuncture are going to be able to go on into retirement with less symptomatic issues, with less of those issues showing up as they get older and later in life.
Because it's one thing to remember is that chiropractic care, a lot of times when we're treating these dogs chiropractically, we're trying to prevent
Correct.
injuries that would show up on x-rays or MRIs.
Well, but the thing is that the other thing that the dogs that are active have going for them is that they're active. When these dogs retire, they're no longer moving. They're not mobilizing those muscles. They're not excreting the waste products in those muscles. So they're going to have issues based on just sitting around. And that's when that chiropractic care, getting them, keeping them moving, is very, very important. So I guess the bottom line, Dr. O, is keep these dogs adjusted.
And watch their diet.
Yes.